As the Gregorian year 2026 meets the Hebrew year 5786, ancient wisdom illuminates the path to the future.
What if everything you've been feeling, the pressure, the acceleration, the sense of a looming threshold, wasn't just your imagination? What if it was written in the very fabric of time itself, in a calendar kept not by man, but by the heavens? For centuries, a secret has been hidden in plain sight, a code embedded in the language of creation. And right now, as you sit watching this, its final sequence is clicking into place. The world marks the year 2026, but that is a shadow. The true year, according to the divine count kept since the dawn of man, is 5,786. And those 4 digits, they are not a number. They are a master key. A key to understanding the spiritual warfare shaking your life, the divine pressure forcing you to choose, and the doorway to a connection so powerful it was sealed shut in Eden. What I'm about to reveal has been guarded by prophets, glimpsed by mystics, and is now being activated for those with eyes to see and ears to hear in this very hour. If you have felt a strange stirring in your spirit since last September, if your prayers seem to hit an invisible barrier, if the battles in your mind, your family, your health have reached a fever pitch, you are not going crazy. You are sensitive to the shift. And by the end of this revelation, you will not only understand the code of 5,786, you will possess the knowledge to align with its frequency, to move from being a victim of the storm to a commander of the whirlwind. This is the hidden knowledge of the ages, and it is your birthright to reclaim it. But to grasp the magnitude of this moment, we must journey back beyond the birth of nations, to the moment time was first divided from eternity. The Hebrew calendar is not a human invention. It is a cosmological clock, synchronized not with the orbit of the earth around the sun, but with the rhythm of creation's restoration. While the Gregorian calendar measures business cycles and political eras, the Hebrew calendar tracks the heartbeat of Yahweh's redemption plan. Every year is a station on a prophetic journey, and each year is spelled out by Hebrew letters that are not mere symbols, but vessels of primordial energy, the very building blocks Yahweh spoke to shape existence. So when we say the year is 5,786, we are not stating a date. We are uttering a formula, Tav-Shin-Pay-Vav, 4 pillars of spiritual reality now governing the spiritual atmosphere of our lives. Think of the last several months. Have you not felt a season of endings, of things being brought to a sudden, often painful, conclusion? Relationships severed, cycles breaking, jobs ending, old identities crumbling? That is the fingerprint of the first letter, Tav. Its numerical value is 400, the number of completion, of testing fulfilled. Its ancient pictogram was a cross, a mark, a sign of covenant and ownership. It is the seal placed upon a finished scroll. It is the moment in the harvest when the sickle is finally swung. The Talmud teaches that Tav is the signature of truth, the final letter of the Hebrew alphabet, signifying an end that makes way for a beginning. But here is what the ancient sages knew that modern mind has forgotten. Divine completion is never passive. It is a violent grace. It is the flood wiping the slate clean. It is the Red Sea closing over Pharaoh's army. It is the death of a vision so that Yahweh's version can be born. The pressure you've felt, the endings you've mourned, they are not chaos. They are the Tav at work, marking one era as finished so the next can commence. But the completion brought by Tav does not leave a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the spiritual realm even more so. What follows completion? Purification. And this is where the second letter Shin erupts onto the stage. With a numerical value of 300, Shin is the consuming fire, the divine flame. It is the fire on Mount Sinai that made the mountain tremble. It is the refining fire of Malachi, burning away the dross. It is the tongues of fire at Pentecost, releasing divine speech. Its very shape is of 3 flames rising from a single base, representing the all-consuming nature of the Divine Father, Son, and spirit as one holy fire. For the last several months, have you felt a peculiar intensity in your trials? It's not just a problem. It feels like it's testing your very essence, burning away your pretenses, your compromises, your borrowed theologies. That is Shin. This is not the gentle warmth of a hearth. This is the forge fire. It is meant to destroy everything in you that cannot survive in the kingdom that is coming. Your finances, your health, your reputation all thrown into the Shin Fire. But listen closely, because this next part is crucial. Shin Fire is not punitive for the believer. It is preparatory. It is not meant to destroy you, but to destroy what is in you that is disconnected from the source. The rabbis teach that Shin is engraved on the doorpost of every Jewish home in the mezuzah. Why? Because the fire of God is not just a threat to the wicked. It is the protective, purifying boundary for the righteous. The battles have been more intense because the Shin Fire is rising, and every ungodly attachment, every soul tie, every agreement with fear is screaming as it burns. This is why your prayers have felt like they're bouncing off the ceiling. You've been praying for relief from the fire, when Yahweh is inviting you to pray for transformation within the fire. The fire is not your enemy. It is the agent of your liberation. But the story does not end with the fire. In fact, the fire has a single sacred purpose, and what it births next will shock you and redefine your very understanding of prayer. For when the Shin Fire has done its sacred work of burning away the clutter and the noise, it reveals the instrument that was there all along, the mouth. This is the third pillar, the letter Pei. Its value is 80, a number symbolizing strength, new beginnings, and the power of the spoken word. Pei's pictogram was a mouth, an open portal. This is the season after the fire, when the self-reliance, the ego, the flimsy confessions are burned away. What is left? Your authentic voice, aligned with His will. This is no longer about reciting prayers. This is about wielding creative authority. Pei represents the divine mandate to speak life into dead places, to decree a thing so that it is established. We see it in Genesis, and God said, we see it in Ezekiel, prophesy to these bones. We see it in Yeshua calming the storm with a command. For months you felt a holy frustration, a bubbling up of words you cannot contain, cries for justice, songs of deliverance, groans too deep for utterance. That is the Pei anointing being stirred. But there is a danger here, a chasm between the modern charismatic obsession with positive confession and the ancient, terrifying power of Pei. The Pei is not a magic spell. It is not the law of attraction. It is the conduit. It is the pipe through which the river of heaven flows. And a pipe must be clean, aligned, and connected to the source. You can have the mouth, you can have the fire, but if you are not connected, all you have is hot air. This is the ultimate crisis of our age, disconnected speech. Social media is a cacophony of disconnected Pei. Politics is a theater of disconnected Pei. And sadly, much of modern faith is a performance of disconnected Pei speaking words of life while living in secret death, proclaiming abundance from a spirit of poverty. The fire of Shin was to purify the Pei. But to what is your speech now meant to connect? That question leads us to the final, most astonishing letter, the linchpin of the entire year 5786, the secret that ties everything together. The fourth and final letter is Vav. Its numerical value is 6, the number of man created on the sixth day. It is the hook, the nail, the connector. It is the straight line that bridges heaven and earth. In the Torah scroll, the letter Vav is used to begin new paragraphs, meaning it is the divine and then that connects God's ongoing story. Without Vav, you have isolated events, a completion, a fire, some speech. With Vav, you have a prophetic sequence, completion connected to fire, connected to speech, connected to divine manifestation. The entire spiritual warfare of this season, the reason for the pressure, is about this one cosmic objective. Yahweh is forcing a reconnection. He is severing every false Vavri hook you've placed your identity in, every nail of security you've hammered into the shifting sand of this world, so that you can be rehooked to the only true source. This is why the enemy's attacks have been so fiercely focused on isolation, on misunderstanding, on broken fellowship, on a pervasive sense of being alone, even in a crowd. He is fighting to keep the Vav broken, because he knows that a believer who is truly, authentically, and powerfully connected to the throne room is unstoppable. Now, consider the most infamous number in Scripture, 666, 3 Vavs in a row. The number of the beast. This is not random. It is the ultimate counterfeit, man's attempt to create a perfect connection, a perfect society, a perfect global system, without God. It is the Tower of Babel reaching to heaven on human terms. It is the promise of total digital connection that leaves the soul utterly isolated. The mark of the beast is the perversion of the Vav. But here is the glorious earth-shattering counter-revelation. In the Gospel of John, Yeshua declares, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." In the Hebrew understanding, he was saying, I am the Vav, I am the connection. I am the living bridge. The cross itself, if you look, is the ultimate Vav, a vertical beam, piercing the earth and reaching into heaven, intersected by a horizontal beam, embracing all humanity. He is the nail that secures the new covenant. He is the hook upon which all of history hangs. And the year 5786 ends with Vav, because this entire season is funneling toward one thing: your deliberate, conscious, and total reconnection to the Father through the Son, by the Spirit, in a way you have never before experienced. This is where your personal journey intersects the cosmic clock. The pressure, the fire, the frustration in your prayer, it has all been a divine surgery, a spiritual physics experiment to expose the broken circuits so they can be rewired. You've been trying to pay with a cluttered soul, a disconnected spirit, and a heart hooked to broken anchors. The Tav ending severed those old hooks. The Shin Fire burned away the corrosion on the terminals. Now the purified your authentic, surrendered voice is being presented with a choice. To what will you connect it? To the anxieties of the day? To the opinions of men? Or to the throne? This is the mystery of Ephesians 4-3. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. That word, bond, is syndesmos, a ligament, a connecting Vav. Your spiritual ligaments have been sprained, torn, by trauma, by disappointment, by sin. This year is the season of divine ligament repair, but surgery requires surrender. You must lie still on the operating table of grace. This is not a passive season. It is a season of active, painful, glorious realignment. And what comes next, the potential that lies on the other side of this reconnection, is so staggering, so laden with both glory and responsibility, that it has been the guarded secret of prophets for millennia. It points to a shift in the very nature of how divine power flows to and through the redeemed. We are moving from the model of occasional visitation to the reality of permanent habitation, from receiving blessings to becoming a source of blessing, from asking God to do things for us to hearing Him tell us what to decree with Him. This is the transition hinted at in the cryptic words of Revelation about those who overcome being made pillars in the temple permanent, structural Vavs, connecting heaven and earth in their sphere of influence. But to step into that, you must first pass through the needle's eye of this present hour. So what do? The knowledge is nothing without application. The code is worthless unless you use it to unlock the door. First, you must audit your connections. This is not a gentle prayer time. This is a spiritual inventory. Go before Yahweh with raw, brutal honesty. Ask, what have I been hooked to? Where is my security, my identity, my source of life truly rooted? Is it in your career, your relationship status, your bank account, your ministry title, your political tribe? Write it down. The Vav must be pulled out of the crumbling walls of man's systems and driven into the bedrock of Zion. This will hurt. Do it anyway. Second, activate the reconnection through obedience. Pick one severed line. He shows you and take a prophetic, physical action to reconnect it. If it's connection to his word, don't just plan to read more. Get up an hour earlier tomorrow, open to the Psalms, and read them aloud until your spirit trembles. If it's connection to true community, don't just think about it. Send the text, make the call, confess your need, and step into vulnerability this week. Obedience is the sound of the Vav being hammered into place. Third, pray the Vav prayer. This is not an incantation. It is a declaration of alignment. Pray this aloud. Let it resound in your room and in the spirit realm. Yahweh, architect of heaven and earth. Yeshua, my Vav, my bridge, my nail-scarred connection. Holy Spirit, master electrician of my soul, I surrender every wire, every circuit. Expose every false hook. Sever me from every source that is not you. Reconnect my spirit to your spirit, my mind to your mind, my mouth to your decrees. I align my completion to your covenant, my fire to your purity, my speech to your truth. I am no longer my own. I am hooked, nailed, and irrevocably connected to you. Let your kingdom come, in me and through me, now. In the name of Yeshua, the living Vav, Amen. Now, this is where your role becomes cosmic. What you have received is not just for you. It is a key to be duplicated and distributed. The enemy wants this knowledge siloed, isolated, kept in the realm of mysterious YouTube videos. But the Vav demands connection. So I am calling you to a sacred act of kindness, a propagation of this light. If this revelation has pierced your heart, if you feel the resonance of this truth in your spirit, then you must not keep it to yourself. Click the like button right now. That simple act is a signal, a digital Vav, connecting this truth to others in the algorithm of human need. Subscribe to this channel. By subscribing, you are not just following a page. You are aligning with the stream of revelation. You are hooking your spiritual hunger to a source of ongoing manna. And most importantly, comment below. Comment your own short prayer of reconnection. Comment Vav. Comment the one area where you feel the divine severing or the holy hook. When you do that, you create a living tapestry of connection in this community. You tell the algorithm of heaven and earth that this message must spread. You become a distributor of the very frequency we are discussing. Your view, your like, your comment becomes a digital loaves and fishes miracle, multiplying this bread of life to feed a world starving for authentic connection. Someone somewhere is minutes away from a breakdown, a giving up point. This message, propelled by your simple act, could appear on their screen and be the lifeline, the Vav, that pulls them from the abyss. You are no longer just a viewer. You are a node in a divine network. The enemy fears connected believers more than anything else. So connect. And know this with absolute certainty. We have only begun to scratch the surface. The code of 5786 is the entry point, the first layer of the onion. What it unlocks, the mysteries of the coming years, the alignment with celestial events, the deeper symbiosis between the redeemed human spirit and the creative power of the Godhead, is a journey we are just embarking on. The tremors you feel are not the end. They are the birth pangs of a new era of connection. The ancient Hebrew prophets saw it as a time of restored voices, of rebuilt ruins, of reanimated dry bones. The veil is not just being torn. It is being removed. The connection is not just being offered. It is being mandated by the times themselves. The clock of heaven has struck an hour of re-hooking. The question that will define your destiny is this: will you remain a frayed wire, sparking with impotent energy, or will you surrender to become a live conduit of divine voltage? A Vav for your generation, a connector between a thirsty earth and a generous heaven? The choice is yours. The time is now. The fire has prepared you. Your mouth is being cleansed. The hook is in his hand. All that remains is for you to say yes to the connection and to step into the glory that awaits on the other side of the veil. This is not the end. This is the connection point. And the best, the most shocking, the most glorious revelations are yet to come. But to understand where this reconnection is leading, you must first journey into the shadow cast by the Vav, into the realm where connection was first betrayed. For the story of the hook is also the story of the tear. We have spoken of the divine surgery, but to comprehend the full miracle of the repair, we must diagnose the original wound with a precision that will chill your blood. The Garden of Eden was not merely a location. It was a state of perfect, resonant connection. Every atom of creation hummed in harmony with the voice of the Creator. Adam was not just a man walking with God. He was a living Vav, a conscious conduit through which the will of heaven flowed into the order of earth. His very speech carried creative authority because it was a perfect extension of divine speech. He named the animals, and his naming locked into their eternal identity because his mouth was a clean vessel, his spirit a flawless wire. But then came the serpent, and its attack was not a frontal assault. It was a campaign of disconnection. It did not deny God's existence. It simply asked, did God really say? This was the first crack in the Vav. It introduced a microsecond of delay, a fragment of static, between the hearing of the divine command and the trust in the divine heart. The question itself was a spiritual wedge, prying apart the unity of trust and obedience. When Adam and Eve bit the fruit, they were not just committing an act of disobedience. They were performing a catastrophic spiritual act of auto-disconnection. They chose to plug their spirits into a different source, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which promised autonomy, a reality where they would no longer be conduits, but self-contained sources. And in that moment, the Vav was severed. The resonant harmony shattered into a deafening cacophony of fear, shame, and blame. They were no longer conductors. They became insulators, hiding from the very frequency that gave them life. This is the primordial trauma, the original sin that echoes in your DNA, the terror of true connection and the addictive lure of false independence. Every struggle you have in prayer, every moment you hide your true self, every time you choose the isolation of sin over the vulnerability of grace, is a reenactment of that first disconnection. The enemy's entire playbook, from that moment to this very hour, is built on one principle: keep the Vav broken. Propagate the lie that you are safer on your own, that God's heart is untrustworthy, that connection leads to control and not to glory. Now, hold that ancient fracture in your mind, because what I am about to reveal next will tie the dawn of history directly to the screen you are staring into. The pattern of disconnection did not end in Eden. It became a blueprint, a recurring archetype written into the saga of humanity. We see it in Cain, disconnected from the land after Abel's blood cried out, becoming a restless wanderer. We see it at Babel humanity, united in a project of monumental connection, a tower to the heavens, but it was a connection severed from God, a parody of the Vav, and it resulted in the confusion of languages, the ultimate symbol of broken communication. We see it in the Israelites at the foot of Sinai. While Moses was on the mountain, receiving the law, the blueprint for reconnection, they grew impatient with the delay. The divine connection seemed too distant, too intangible. So they demanded a God they could see, a God they could control, a golden calf. This is perhaps the most instructive pattern of all. It reveals that the human soul, when terrified by the silence of the true Vav, will instinctively fashion a false one. We cannot abide a vacuum of connection. We will hook ourselves to anything, a metal idol, a political ideology, a relationship, a career, a social media persona, a doctrine of God that is manageable and safe, rather than face the terrifying, glorious uncertainty of hooking ourselves to the living, unpredictable, consuming fire of Yahweh. Your life is littered with the dust of golden calves you constructed to avoid the surgery of the true Vav. But here is the shocking twist, the mystery hidden in the desert sand. Even in the midst of this horrific betrayal, God was laying down a clue, a foreshadowing of the repair. Moses, in his fury, burned the calf, ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the people drink it. The false connection was consumed by fire, pulverized and ingested. It had to be taken inside them to become a bitter medicine. This is the exact pattern of 5786. Tav, the covenant broken, a completion of rebellion. Shin, the fire of judgment and consumption. Pay, the ingestion, the internalizing of the consequence. And then, a hidden Vav. For after this, Moses pitched the tent of meeting outside the camp. A new, separate point of connection. For those who would seek Yahweh, they had to leave the place of the false connection, the corrupted camp, and go out to where the true Vav Moses, the mediator, dwelt. Do you see it? The pattern is eternal. The false must be exposed, burned, and internalized as a lesson before the true connection can be established in a place of separation. This is what has been happening to you. Your personal golden calves are being identified, burned in the Shin Fire, and the ashes are a bitter taste in your mouth. And now, a voice is calling you to move outside your familiar camp, to a new place of meeting. But where is this place? And who is the Moses, the mediator, for this hour? The answers are not what you've been taught, and they will lead us into a revelation about the very nature of Yeshua, sacrifice, that will dismantle Sunday school pictures and rebuild your faith on unshakable bedrock. Because the story of the Bible is not a collection of random tales. It is a singular, laser-focused narrative. The story of Yahweh's relentless quest to reforge the severed Vav. Every prophet, every king, every sacrifice was a prototype, a flickering shadow of the ultimate repair. The tabernacle and later the temple were not just buildings. They were elaborate diagrams of reconnection. The outer court, the holy place, the Holy of Holies, these were layers of reconnection, with the Ark of the Covenant in the innermost sanctum acting as the ultimate Vav, the point where the Shekinah glory touched earth. The high priest, once a year on Yom Kippur, would pass through the veil, a living Vav momentarily bridging the gap. But it was temporary, symbolic, a ritual of profound limitation. It was a promise, not the fulfillment. And then, in the fullness of time, the promise became a person. Yeshua of Nazareth was not just a teacher. He was not just a miracle worker. He was the living Vav incarnate. His every action was a demonstration of reconnected humanity. He spoke to storms, and they obeyed, the pay of Eden restored. He touched lepers, and they were cleansed, the polluted connection of disease severed and replaced with life. He declared forgiveness of sins, directly reconnecting souls to the Father, bypassing the broken system. But the culmination, the moment the cosmic surgery reached its apex, was the cross. See it not with sanitized, religious eyes. See it with the eyes of the ancient mystics who understood symbols. The vertical beam, the divine reaching down. The horizontal beam, humanity stretched out. The intersection, the Vav, the point of connection. His body, nailed there, was not just a sacrifice for sin. It was the ultimate conduit. All the sin, all the disconnection, all the brokenness of humanity was funneled into him. He became the ultimate insulator, the supreme breaker of connection, absorbing the full force of the severed reality, so that in his death, the ancient Vav was not just repaired, but supercharged. And then, the resurrection. This is the part that will rewrite your understanding of power. When Yeshua rose, he did not simply return to a pre-crucifixion state. He emerged as the first fruit of a new species, a new kind of human being in whom the Vav was not external, but internalized, eternal, and unbreakable. His resurrected body was a prototype of the reconnected humanity you are called to inhabit. He said to Mary, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Why? Because the connection was no longer about physical proximity. It was about spiritual integration. He was about to ascend as the forerunner, to hook humanity back into the throne room in a permanent, legal, and ontological way. And at Pentecost, the fire of Shin did not just appear above the disciples. It split and rested on each one of them. The Vav was no longer centralized in one man, in one temple, behind one veil. It was distributed. The hook was planted in 120 individual hearts, and they became mobile points of connection, living temples, walking Vavs. This is the staggering truth. You are not praying to a distant God. You are praying from a connected position. You are a branch already grafted into the vine. The vine is the ultimate Vav. Your struggle is not to achieve connection. It is to live out of the connection that already is, to clear the blockages in the conduit of your soul. This brings us to the terrifying, glorious edge of our present moment in 5786. The distributed Vav of Pentecost was the down payment. What is happening now is the maturation, the activation of that network of connections for a purpose so specific, so critical, that the very cosmos is growing for its manifestation. We are transitioning from the era of the personal Pentecost to the corporate fulfillment of the Feast of Tabernacles. Pentecost, Shavuot, was the giving of the law and the Spirit, the tools, the blueprint, and the power. But Tabernacles, Sukkot, is the feast of ingathering and habitation. It is when the harvest is finally brought in and God's presence dwells or tabernacles with his people. This is no longer about individual anointing or personal blessing. This is about a connected, synchronized, corporate body becoming a collective. Vav of such coherence and power that it becomes the literal dwelling place of Yahweh on earth, a human embassy of heaven. The Shin Fire of this year is burning away the last vestiges of individualistic, celebrity-driven, bless me Christianity to prepare a people who can function as a single organism. The enemy knows this. His frenzied attacks on unity, his sowing of discord, of suspicion, of theological tribalism, are not random. He is trying to fray the cables of this emerging network before it can be fully energized. He fears a connected church more than anything, because a connected church is an exact replica of the Godhead unified, diverse, and omnipotently loving. But to step into this corporate Vav identity requires a death, a releasing of a sacred cow that modern Christianity has worshipped for centuries, the idol of personal destiny over corporate purpose. This is where the story gets uncomfortable, where the path narrows to a razor's edge. It demands we ask a question so piercing it will silence every ambitious prayer you've ever uttered. Are you willing for your life to be hidden, your name forgotten, your personal ministry dissolved, if it means you become a perfectly functioning cell in the body of the Messiah, a silent potent wire in the great Vav of his glory? The next layer of this mystery will plunge us into the heart of that question, exposing the spiritual technology of true unity, and revealing why the enemy has counterfeit versions of it rolling out across the global stage at this very moment. What you are about to see will explain everything from the rise of digital hive minds to the spirit behind globalist agendas, and it will show you the only path to walk through it without losing your soul. From the forgotten dawn, where the Vav was first severed in a garden of shadow and choice, to the thundering foot of Sinai, where golden idols revealed our addiction to false connection, we have traced the scar across the heart of humanity. We have seen the pattern: completion, fire, speech, the ancient code of 5786 Tav. Shin-Pay-Vav is not a prediction. It is a diagnosis of the age and a prescription for your soul. The pressure you felt, the abrupt endings, the furnace of trials, the frustration in your prayer closet, they were not signs of abandonment. They were the precise surgical movements of a divine surgeon, performing an emergency procedure on the severed connection that left you feeling orphaned in a storm. We have walked through the fire of Shin, understanding it as the holy purge, burning away everything in you that could not carry the voltage of the coming connection. We have stood before the open portal of pay, realizing your mouth is not just for requests, but for decrees. Your voice, once purified, is meant to shape reality in partnership with heaven. And we have arrived at the glorious, terrifying truth of the Vav. Yeshua is not just your Savior. He is your connection. He is the living bridge, the nail securing your covenant, the hook upon which hangs all your identity, purpose, and power. The cross was the ultimate reconnection point, and Pentecost distributed that connection into the spirits of all who would believe. You are not trying to reach God. You are learning to live from the place of already being irrevocably grafted in. But this is not a passive truth. It is an activation. The cosmic clock has struck an hour of holy rehooking. The season of wandering is over. The season of the functioning, powerful, corporate Vav, the body of Messiah, operating as one connected, habitation-ready vessel, is upon us. The fire was to prepare you for this. The silence was to make you hungry for this. The battle was to prove your need for this. Now, the revelation must become a revolution. In your spirit, right now, a choice is being presented. Will you let this be another fascinating video? A piece of spiritual intrigue that fades when you close this tab? Or will you let it be the moment the hook sets, the circuit closes, and your life finally, fully flows from the source? This is your call to action. This is your moment to move from audience to army. First, seal it with your words. Do not let this truth remain abstract. Make it yours. The enemy fears confessed truth. I am calling you to the comments section right now. This is not just a comment thread. It is an altar of witness. Do one of these three things. 1. Write your personal confession. I am the Vav. I am connected. I renounce my reliance on every false hook of name it, approval, money, old identity. I am grafted into the vine. 2. Post your short prayer of reconnection. Let it be raw. Let it be real. Yahweh, hook me. Yeshua, connect me. Spirit, flow through me. I surrender my will to be a part of your corporate body. 3. Testify. What has God just done in your heart as you watched? What chain just broke? What insight just ignited? He showed me my golden calf was underscore. The fire in my trial now makes sense. When you type those words, you are not typing into a void. You are prophesying over your own life. You are creating a public record of your alignment. You are connecting with a global family doing the same. I will be there, reading them, agreeing with them in prayer. This comment section will become a living scroll of reconnection. Second, propagate this light. You have been given a key that can unlock prisons. You have drunk from a well that can quench a world's thirst. You cannot keep it to yourself. The Vav is about connection, and connection spreads. I am challenging you, with a sense of holy urgency, to share this video. Do not just share it. Commission it. Send it to at least 10 people. 10 family members. 10 friends. 10 people on your prayer list. 10 strangers whose faces God puts on your heart. Share it to your groups, your communities. Understand this. When you hit that share button, you are not just passing along content. You are acting as a Vav. You are becoming a connecting point between a hungry soul and the manna of this message. You are a distributor of the code that can crack the chaos of someone's life. Think of the one person you know who is in the fire and doesn't know why. Think of the one who feels their prayers are bouncing back. Think of the one on the brink of a wrong decision. You now hold a lifeline for them. Your simple act of obedience clicking share can be the divine intervention that alters their eternal destiny. This video is not mine. It is a vessel. When you share it, you are helping to pour out its contents onto a parched earth. You are extending God's teaching. You are multiplying His blessing. You are fighting the darkness of disconnection with the weapon of shared truth. The story does not end here. The reconnection is just the beginning. What flows through a connected life, the power, the glory, The collective manifestation of the kingdom is what we are being prepared for. This is the foundation, and a house of glory must be built on a foundation of sure connection. So, act now, before the moment passes. Before the world's noise drowns out the clarity. Go to the comments. Confess. Pray. Testify. Then, go and share. Spread this like holy fire. The clock is ticking. The Vav is being secured. Will you be a part of the connection, or will you remain a frayed wire? The choice and the power are yours. Let it be known in the comments, and let it be seen in the world through your obedience. Now, go, be the Vav.